screen there?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Good.
Very good.
What do we got here? Well, I'll start introducing you, Philip, and we'll see who comes on the line. All right. Well, good morning, guys. Everybody that's on the line and whoever joins us eventually via River shared on the website. Today we have Phillip Todd and Nate Brown that will be talking to us. Phillip Todd has been a friend that we've done work with related to construction, river restoration. I think originally met you maybe back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s in North Carolina. Currently working for North State Environmental, and he's going to talk to us today about why pre-qualification of contractors for stream restoration construction is important, or how you do it. So with that, Philip, I'm going to pass it on to you, and then after Philip's done, we're going to be talking to Nate Brown, and Nate Brown is in Ecuador, and he is with the Assemblies of God doing some mission work in San Clemente. So he's going to talk to you a little bit about kind of what his inspiration's been and what they are doing down in Ecuador. So feel free to stay on the line after Philip and talk to Nate and ask questions, and we'll have an interview with Nate then. So thanks a lot, and here you go, Philip.
Thanks, Dave, so much. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Just a brief history of my background. I've been involved in the stream restoration industry for over probably 25 years now. I began when I was with the Department of Transportation in North Carolina, and did a lot of project planning for stream restoration mitigation projects, and then associated the 404, 401 permits. Then moved over to a consultant company for 5 years, and now I've been on the construction side for about 10 years. So the main purpose today is to talk about why we want to pre-qualify people, the importance of it, and how it could, if we don't do that and we get bad projects put in, drastically affect the industry that we're in as well, which is all near and dear to our hearts. So just as an outline today, we'll look over lots of photos. I have a very limited vocabulary, but I like lots of photos because that kind of tells a story that I can articulate with words. And we'll get into why we want to pre-qualify as well, and talk about more of the narrative perspective behind it, talk about benefits and limitations associated with pre-qualification and how that affects project delivery for our clients. And we'll look at considerations. What do we want to include in our pre-qualification process? What data are we looking for? So now again, some pretty pictures, or at least that was the intention at the very beginning when these projects started. So this is one of my favorite photos of all time. Many of you may recognize it from taking courses in technology. And the question comes up, is this design or construction? And to tell you the truth, we don't know. We had no idea whatsoever. We're not sure what the cause of the problem is here. Was it a consultant designer that wasn't qualified to know what they were doing? Did they miss Bankful, or did we hire an unqualified, inexperienced contractor here to handle such a And the question is, why is the stream grading? Did the design miss the width to depth ratio? Is that incorrect? Is that what the problem is? Is sediment transport, was that taken into consideration or not here? Or the last question could be, did the contractor not build it correctly? Did he miss Bankful and not follow the specifications well, the design parameters that were there? So it's just a big colossal mess. And I bring it up just because we don't want these projects to go forward and be a black eye for the industry. Understand in Maryland, one of the subcommittees of the state legislature, they are considering not allowing any more stream restoration in the state of Maryland because there's so much trouble with that as part of mitigation projects and other challenges. And so we want to put our best foot forward to continue forward with the projects that we're all working on. So next photo here is a step pool, or at least that's what the intentions were. You know, here the step pool system was not installed correctly at all. It's basically a straight roof hole coming down the slope here. There's no energy dissipation going on whatsoever. The structure arms are not anchored into the bank as we want to see here to protect the banks and to maintain the thaw. We can push the water to the center. There's no real true, what can I say, Footer structure here. Basically, I'm not sure if you guys can see the stripe, see my cursor or not, but basically the water can just kind of flow straight through the gaps here in these rocks. There's nothing that's going to flow over with these gaps. There's no pool that's been excavated here. It is just a mess, and it could potentially give a black eye to our industry. Things we want to do the environmental good we're trying to do as well. The next one here is supposed to be a cross vein, right? It's too low within the river system itself. I'm not sure if it's put in the right location anyway to begin with. The photo is very limited what we're looking at here. The header elevation here are not correct at all. You're not getting any energy dissipation that flows through. I mentioned that the structure was installed probably too deep through here, and also the angle arms here are not installed as well into the bank. It's just a mess. You contrast those previous 3 photos with this one here. This is a step pull system that was done in North Carolina, in Maryland. It's in it's an Air Force base there. Again, we have the angles coming through here, the right angle with the structure arms. We have the footer head, the footer rocks here, and the header of the structure itself flowing right over, looking at less than 6 inches of a drop, because we found that really creates a problem for these structures as well. And it's very picturesque as well. The other structures where they were implemented were not functioning as they were designed. Here we have a nice step pull cross vein system, dropping the elevation over a wide area here, and it's functioning as it was designed. Another photo here is a J hook. Not sure if it was misplaced within the stream profile or not, because it's definitely installed too low. With the angle arm here is not correct at all, tied in well with the stream bank, and then also the other portions of the stream structure itself are installed at the wrong location, not providing any habitat. Again, not providing the function that it was designed for originally. Contrast that with this J hook here. Its function as it was designed and intended to. You can see there is actually a 4 crossing as well in the photo here, installed correctly and in the right location as well. In the riffle section here, the header rock here is designed appropriately. We're maintaining the foul wake through the system as well, and the other portions of the J hook are installed correctly, keyed into the banks at the proper angle, so that when we do have our storm events, the foul wakes can be maintained, as well as the pool section as well. So now I want to move into why we want to pre-qualify. So when we think about pre-qualification, what is it? And I always like to start with a good definition. So pre-qualification is an evaluation, it's a determination process of whether a particular contractor has the qualifications, the past history and faithful performance will do the work. We're looking at the history. What's their faithful performance been? We're getting feedback from other potential past clients that they've had, if they're willing to do that. We're taking a look at the contractor's skills. Do they have the capabilities and a good judgment to be able to put in the structure? They know how to do the work, so that we're not getting into construction observation challenges, both with consultants spending a lot of time out there as well, doing the work. Do they have the financial resources that you need to be able to handle extended payments sometimes with some of these municipal projects we worked on in the past? And again, looking at the abilities of the staff that they have as well, both from a project manager perspective, but also field staff. So why do we want to pre-qualify? I kind of hit on it earlier at the top bullet here. Industry reputation. We all enjoy the work. We see the good that we're doing from stream restoration work that we're doing. So we want to protect that. We want to get the best projects possible. The other thing is why I want to pre-qualify is the stream restoration construction is just not construction. I've had many conversations with other contractors out there that say they can do it. While they can do it, they may not understand the uniqueness of the work itself, as we'll get into. And as you've seen some of those photos, and getting the right angles for the structures, understanding how the structures are supposed to function, and how it really ties into design. We're in the last bullet here on this page. The stream restoration is unique from other GC work, and really handling this right now. As the streams are dynamic, we're working in a dynamic system. Many times, the existing condition surveys were done many years in advance when the project's actually going to construction. So there's changes that have already been made. We're working with water. Water's powerful. It changes the conditions as well. We're not working in a static environment like a typical building or a road project or putting in a pipe system. details matter when it comes to stream restoration construction, and getting those key components that are required so everything functions as it was designed by a properly trained and qualified designer. So let's talk about some of the benefits and limitations associated with pre-qualification. First and foremost, it separates the pretenders from the contenders. Back when the recession, 2008, 2007 recession time period had happened here in North Carolina, we had all of a sudden we had lots of an influx of contractors who were HVAC system people, roadway guys are trying to get in here and trying to do work. And they were trying to work on some pretty complicated projects down in the coastal plain of North Carolina. And things did not go well. So really the industry kind of got a black eye at that point in time, and many challenges associated with the resource agency. So basically one of the benefits of it is you know if people can or can't do the work they're saying they can do by pulling together these pre-qualification packages and submitting to you. Other some benefits associated with it, if you put out your pre-qualified package ahead of time, it notifies the construction company that a bid is coming in the near future, so therefore they can kind of plan and look to see if they have the capability, the resources in terms of time and their schedule to be able to put a project bid in for you as well, or they need to pass. The third bullet here is it minimizes the time of construction consultant on site. If people don't understand how to do the stream restoration construction and they ended up getting into having a consultant on site that's done the design, that can really add up to the cost for a particular client. It can also get into some potential challenges when it comes to methods and means of controlling that from an engineering perspective and licensing and insurance perspectives. So the last thing, the fourth bullet here is provides confidence and resource agency relationships. If people know the contractors are out there doing the work, they know what they're doing, it breeds that confidence in resource agencies. So therefore also look at the bigger picture, their time in trying to get 404, 401 approvals as well as mitigation concept approvals as well. It just makes that much easier because they're not having to spend a lot of time after the project's been done, having to adapt to management projects implemented there at the site, having to approve them and consider them as well. So look at some of the downsides of pre-qualification. One is you definitely have the potential to limit the number of pool of contractors that submit a bid. Instead of going from maybe 7 or 8, you're going to narrow it down to maybe 3 to 4, maybe sometimes 2. I've seen in some instances. And so that could be a challenge when it comes to some municipal, state, and federal challenges when it comes to bid administration. It has the potential to limiting contractors to getting into the field, which could be good and bad from that perspective, because people who don't understand or really need to be doing it. It does add cost to the project implementation. We're having to spend more time with administrative municipality or the consultant to review these qualification packages, having to create them and put them out as well. It also adds more time. So if you're working with a grant project in particular that's got a very short time period, or you're looking at things about the growing season, trying to get everything done in advance, it definitely adds more time to the schedule if you happen to look at these qualification packages. That's something else that's the challenge to it. The other thing to add is, when it comes to we go back to the second point here, limit the contractors implementing it. You can always gear your qualification packages as well to have contractors that aren't as qualified to kind of get some experience with the smaller projects, so they're not as big a risk to you as well. If it's something that you're going to go through with municipalities. So think about the perspective as well. We'll get into that more in just a minute. So what are your considerations? What things should you keep in mind as you're putting together your qualification package to ask contractors to give you a response to? Always is remember what the goal is. You're wanting to separate people who can do the work from people who say they can do the work. Remember the goal is, well, you want to hire a qualified, experienced contractor to implement this project to reduce the amount of adaptive management plans at the very end. This is what your potential costs for on-site management. So some of the differentiators you want to keep in mind, what type of project you're working on. Is it rural or is it urban? As we all know, rural projects are much easier to put in than urban projects, where you're having to work on other infrastructure, having to consider water lines, sewer lines, where they're crossing the project area or running parallel to the project area, or you're working on a constrained work area. Sometimes it could be in a rural when it comes to what farmers go on to give over. But really, that's a big consideration when it comes to the rural environment, the urban environment. and thinking that through from a bigger picture perspective. Environmental sensitive areas. Do you want to contract this done in the past? Are you working in trial headwaters or within endangered species areas? Sensitivity and over time to 50 species. Possible being at public meetings or interacting with neighbors who are looking at the project and ask lots of questions of you and what the contractor runs around about. And taking lots of photos and observing. What's the level of awareness for that? Think about training. You know, how many of these do you want contractors out there from a management perspective and or a field staff perspective that have experience? Is that important to you? The next question is, how do you ask for that? Does it require some sort of, formal graduate studies or undergraduate studies, or is it more just professional licensing certifications in the past? Last thing on this particular page is going back to what is your construction experience itself? Are you looking at certain linear footage that you want to have as being a delineator, or are you looking at some certain structures? What's the experience these contractors have in terms of length and the setting, as well as type of structures? So the next question is, when do you want to go through your construction pre-qualification process? Do you want to do it weeks in advance, let people know, hey, this project's coming out? The other options are, do you want to do the bid opening? You want to read the qualifications first and determine whether to open the bid. Do you want to read the qualifications after the bids are opening before this is submitted? Or do you want to have the qualifications submitted after the bid's been read, whatever reasonable time is? These are the times I've seen it in different qualification packages that I've put together. For the 11 years I've been doing this.
Phillip, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You're muffled at times. I don't know if there's anything with your speaker that or internet connection that maybe you can adjust.
Unfortunately, I'm at a hotel right now. So I've just pulled everything closer to me. Hopefully I can see if that's better now.
If you turn off your video, Bethany had said that it may save some bandwidth. So if you turned off your video and just show the screen, of course, that might help out too.
That's not done now, so that's better.
Okay, thank you. Keep going. Sorry.
You're good. Time for consideration. So what's the time period for this qualification? Do you want to be a single project, or do you want to have multiple projects? A single project being for just this particular job that's going to come out of the bid in 3 weeks from now, or do you want multiple projects to consider? Is that over a 2-year period, a 3-year period with an annual renewal, submitting more qualification to update that? Then that leads to other questions about limitations in the future as well. And so my other suggestion and general consideration is adjusting the qualification differentiators based on the project complexity, which is what we kind of covered previously as well. All right. So what information do you want to request? And so some portions of the projects I've done in the past, pre-qualifications have been check yes or no. Just requesting the general information here, general business information, asking about sureties that have been issued, lawsuits, claims. Next round of general information is established some sort of point system associated with general requirements. How long you've been in business? Is it important that your contractor be registered in the home base of the state you're working in? Looking at financials again, looking at EMR, what's the safety rating? Just things like this. The general point system is already established. Very easy to submit and answer those questions. Next thing is what to request is looking at experience. Is it important that the superintendent foreman have geomorphic training experience in or the project management team that's going to be working with the particular project? Asking for the footage for the company, as well as maybe the footage for the site superintendent foreman is going to be out there on site. Again, looking at construction experience for different structures. How many linear feet of toe wood and geolifts has a particular contractor put in? looking at number of crossings instructed. Those sorts of things can really help you, excuse me, identify whether or not the contractor has that experience that you're looking for. And those little details matter. Again, looking at the project specifics, tap back to the particular structures that are going to be on your particular project. If you're looking at a constrained environment as well, urban experience, winter construction, how much of a pump around are you having to work in, or do you want someone who has experience working in the wet? If your state jurisdictions allow that. Again, tailoring everything for the particular project that you're getting ready to work on, asking for that particular information. Again, it gets down to project specifics here. This is important about particular watersheds that you worked in the past, different contract types as well, and the physiographic regions that you're working in. The last thing is a qualification scoring. I would really challenge you guys, if you're looking at a pre-qualification, to really gear that toward the project complexity and requirements. Otherwise, you see in this particular pre-qualification here, you know, a lot of times it's just you look as being a test. If you're a kid, like I generally do a lot of times, have the same mindset. I'll go to the very end and look at the scoring where I want to focus things here. The reason I bring it up is here, basically, all they're really looking for to maximize the number of points for this particular pre-qualification is whether or not you've had the footage. You're not really looking at the project complexity. As you see here, allowed to choose and maximize the amount of points here is to choose projects in over 5,000 feet in length. Now, that can be a great differentiator. At the same time, though, I think you also want to look at similar structures that have put in the past as well. That's just kind of my recommendation. Thoughts. Other recommendations are that if you're establishing conditions to bid, I would prefer and recommend you put the pre-qualification process prior to the bids or prior to ratings of the bids. The reason being that you don't want the bids to influence the decisions that are made. And I bring up this story here. I remember your job in the Rocky Mountain region, where basically they opened the bids and then they read the qualifications afterwards. It was a very challenging condition because the local contractor there, they really didn't know what they were doing as much as we did. Really got into a challenging situation with the board. The board went ahead with the recommendation of the city staff to hire an outside contractor to the local one. And it really got to the politics, to the point that afterwards, one of the town council people, their wives basically came into them afterwards and said, the next time you hire a out-of-state contractor to do work to the local one, you won't be able to, it'll be a long night for you to put up plywood. So it's really important to kind of consider that you don't want the overall project dollar value to influence your decision about whether you hire a contractor with more experience or another one. Again, everything I just kind of went into here with that story laid out for you. You don't want the bid to influence your recommendation of award. Because about the politics that I mentioned previously. The reason as well is that if you do your pre-qualifications in advance, you're not wasting the opportunity, the time or resource, unqualified contractors to put the bid in themselves, and enables contractors who have questionable experience to determine if they really meet the qualifications. Instead of, again, there's a lot of time, energy, effort goes into pulling these bids together. And if people have questionable qualifications, it's best to let them know in advance instead of putting those resources to use in this way. Other items to consider the grade the down requested for your particular project, and review the entire project as well, and the complexity, as I mentioned previously. A channel relocation, i.e. a drainage swells permanent road project, doesn't hold the same weight as their project with fist passage considerations or a project urban watershed. And in summary, selection of a qualified, experienced contractor, in my opinion, is in your best interest. To do that is worth the time, energy, and effort. Definitely have the qualifications read before the bid itself. Remember what you're focused on, looking at past performance in terms of faithfulness to do the work in the past and the quality of work that one does, the skills and abilities to do that. Good sound judgment, because they're working in stream systems that are dynamic and not static, no change. In the long term, with pre-qualification, you're going to have less construction administration, so less funds are going to be expended from that resource perspective, and also likelihood of change orders or liability in the past, because your construction admin is not going to be on site directing the operations of the contractor there. And with that, I do have a white paper if anyone's interested in that, I'd be glad to send that to you, that all this is written down in a narrative form to be able to pass on to folks for them to consider. And there's my contact information and future questions as well later on. And without turning any questions that you, Dave, have, or other people may have.
Yeah, Philip, do you mind sending, would it be okay if we posted the white paper on River Shared for
Sure.
people to use in the future?
Yep. Be glad to do that.
And then do you guys have an example of any municipality or somebody that used a pre-qualifications bid that seemed exceptionally well that you'd like to share with that on River Share, just so we can use it for future municipality uses? I know we get this question usually a couple times a month from people on, hey, do you have an example pre-qualification of a project that worked well?
Yeah, what I'll do, Dave, is I'll spend some time putting together several for people to look at, and you kind of tie it back to the presentation as well. But I'll send you a copy of the presentation too. Put up there in addition to
That sounds good. Thank you. Have you worked, Philip, have you worked much with pre-qualification schemes that were kind of beyond the municipality? So basically, I know sometimes they have things like the PIPS process where it looks at performance-based indicators for procurement. Have you have any background on talking about those types of programs that are more nationally based for qualifications, opposed to just a local municipality creating their own qualifications, or benefits or disadvantages of either?
I'm not familiar with that, Dave. Be glad to look at it. If you have an example you want to send to me, be glad to look at it, but I don't have any knowledge of that right now.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
All right. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I'll talk for a little bit here. And if nobody has any more questions, then we will move on and we'll have our interview with Nate Brown today. I really appreciate your time today, Philip. I appreciate you being willing to give us time and share the white paper and the presentation on the website for folks to be able to get at and hopefully help them develop a qualifications for contractors on projects where it is appropriate and challenging.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, so this morning we're going to talk to Nate Brown. Good morning, Nate. How are you doing,
David? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good, good. So Nate's been a friend of ours for a while. We went to church together in Fort Collins, Colorado, and since then they've traveled here and about, and recently within the last couple of years started out on a new adventure for their family where they're on a they're in missions with the Assemblies of God in San Clemente, Ecuador. So with that, can you tell me a little bit about kind of the transition that your family had from a kind of a normal 9-to-5 job to going down and living in Ecuador?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, but like you said, we were living in Fort Collins. We were attending Timberline Church. I was working as an engineer at the Budweiser brewery there, a normal full-time suburban lifestyle. And we had actually been working to pay off our debt. We had a lot of debt from student loans and credit cards and cars. And so I took a promotion to become the senior resident engineer of the malt plant in Moorhead, Minnesota. And we moved our family up to Fargo, North Dakota, just on the other side of the river from Moorhead. and we were living there. And I had been working so long for all these things to get the better job title and to increase my income and to buy a house and to have a nice car and provide for my family. And I finally got all those things that I had been working for so long, and was really just kind of empty inside. Woke up in the morning and dreaded going to work and asked myself, is this all there is? And a buddy of mine invited me to a class at church, and we were doing a book study called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And it's a Christian apologetics book. And it really impacted me. And I really started asking myself, what is it I believe? And what does that mean? And what should I do? And so we really started searching out, because I knew, like I said, I worked so hard to get all these things and achieve all my goals. And at the end, was just as empty inside as I had been before. And so we started trying to find what it was that the Lord had for us, where we were being called, what we were supposed to be doing with our lives. And we didn't actually jump straight into missions. What we did was we didn't know. We didn't know where we were supposed to be or what we were supposed to be doing, but we knew there was something else. And so we sold our house and our cars, and we bought an RV, and we spent the next 2.5 years traveling the country full time in our RV. And along the way, we had been part of the church. We'd been part of the church in Fort Collins and then again in Fargo. And that was something we missed, was having that community, something that had been really important to me throughout my life, the local church community throughout my adult life anyway. I didn't actually grow up in the church, but we missed it. And so we started trying to find that community on the road, and we started doing things like hosting campfires at our site, and we would invite somebody who plays the guitar a little bit better than me to play, and we would sing some worship songs, and we tried to build that community in these campgrounds where we were camping in our RV. And through that, we met another couple who was missionaries. They're missionaries now in Brazil. And they said, hey, you know what you're doing looks kind of like missions. Have you ever considered that? And we said no, but it planted a seed, and we prayed about it and thought about it, and eventually decided to look into it, and talked to our missions pastor from our church back home in Colorado, and found an opportunity and decided that we would try to dedicate our lives to serving the Lord. And we ended up here in Ecuador because of the need. There's one other family that came here because Ecuador has a strong local church, but the country has a lot of struggles with poverty. And so this particular area of Ecuador we're in on the coast didn't have a local church. There's one Catholic church, but the priest travels from town to town. And so he'll come, open the church, perform a mass, and leave. But that community that had been such an integral part of my life, it doesn't really exist here. And so the Ecuadorian Assemblies of God had actually asked for a missionary to come and plant the church, and they did. And then as their church began to grow, they needed help with the children's ministry, which is my wife's background. She was our children's ministry director at Timberline there. That's how we know David. And then also to build the church building. And with my background in engineering, and I've done some construction work, thought that this would be a good fit. And so here we are. We've been here for about 6 months now and are helping at the church, and it's starting to grow. They just purchased a piece of land, and eventually we will construct a church building, and a local Ecuadorian pastor will take over, and it will be an Ecuadorian church, and we'll move on to the next opportunity.
So one of the things that I think is unique about the first 4 centuries of the Christian church is that everything was kind of focused around the work that they did together. So until you had Constantine that changed how the church looked, they were kind of, the work that you did together was kind of how you focused the church, and the church really was about this group of people working together in life. What are some needs in San Clemente to help people find ways to work together, opposed to just, hey, why don't you come here and hang out with us and let us give you food on a weekend, or let us give you something on the weekend? What are ways that you guys try to find ways to work together with the communities?
Yeah, well, you're right. In the book of Acts, basically the history of the early church, it describes over and over again people coming together. They sold what they had, they worked together, and they took care of each other. And that church community in my life, I've seen the same thing. We're not living communally necessarily, but when I was, like I said, I didn't grow up in the church, but I started going to church as a young man. I was in the Navy, going through a divorce, as young men in the Navy often do, and really struggling. And it was a shipmate of mine that invited me to church. And it was there in that community where I found the support that I needed to help me deal with these issues in a healthy way, because honestly, I wasn't dealing with it in a very healthy way before. And after I got out of the Navy, I moved back home, started going to college as a single dad. And again, I was invited to church, and it was in that church community where I found help with raising two little girls on my own and trying to go to college full time. And that's where I met Michelle. Michelle and I got married. Again, it was in the church where we found premarital counseling and help be starting our journey as a blended family. And that community is the one that supported us and celebrated with us at our wedding. After I graduated, I couldn't find a job. We moved to Maryland. And my first day at work, a guy said, "Hey, do you have a church yet?" And it was that church community that helped us learn to be more dependent on in that community, and because we didn't have our family anymore, our biological family, but we had a church family. And just over and over again, and it hasn't necessarily been the pastor, it's just been the other people, the community there. Every time I've had a need, it's been those people that have said, well, hey, we can help you. We have this resource here in our community. We have financial peace. We can help you with your financial troubles, or just over and over again. And so that idea of community and working together, I think, is the way the church is supposed to operate. And here in San Clemente, the biggest issue here is material poverty. And in Ecuador, they use the US dollar because the sucre, which was the Ecuadorian currency prior to the year 2000, underwent some hyperinflation, and basically they transitioned to the use of the dollar to try to stabilize their economy. But the poverty line here hovers around 25%, a little more, a little less, depending. But the way they define poverty here in Ecuador is if you're in less than the standard monthly wage, which is around $400 a day. The standard wage for a worker here is $20 a day. And there's no conversion, right? That's the US dollar. So 25% of the people are making less than that.
I think I might have heard that wrong. You said, is it $20 a day, or you said $400, and that's $400 a week? Is that correct?
A month.
A month. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. And so when they say the poverty rate's 25%, that means a quarter of the people are making less than $400 a month, US dollars, no conversion. And then, a significant portion of the population is only making that and not a lot more. And so the material poverty is it's obviously the most pressing concern locally. People come to pray at church, and they pray, "Lord, give me this day my daily bread," seriously, because they're depending, each day they're trying to make just enough to feed their family for the day. And so in that situation, it's really tough to
some things, Nate, are kind of cheaper there, but a lot of things are a little bit more expensive there. Like, for example, vehicles are more expensive there. Is that correct?
It's true, yeah. So things that are more affordable are food. Some of the food, anyway, it tends to be more affordable.
Yeah.
Rice and fresh fruit and vegetables are pretty readily available and fairly affordable. And so your money goes a little bit further in feeding your family than it does back home. Anything imported has tariffs and import taxes and is about double the cost that you're used to in the US. So televisions, cell phones, refrigerators are actually kind of a luxury here. Not everybody will have a refrigerator in their home because they're very expensive. They're not produced here in the country. Actually, I'm not aware of very many sort of electronics or modern sort of things that are produced here. The country produces, it's the #1 exporter of bananas. It's a huge exporter of shellfish and tuna. Fishing is a big industry. There's oil. And flowers. They grow a lot of flowers in the highlands. So flowers, oil, shellfish, tuna. Those are some bananas. Those are big. They're produced here and exported, but it's a lot of agricultural industry.
So what are some practical ways that you meet the people of San Clemente with hope? Let's give you just an example. Let's say you have kind of guys on the street that really are having a hard time finding work. How do you kind of reach them with hope, or how do you meet them with their need, opposed to just saying, "Hey, come to church"?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's really hard to hear a message over the growling of your own stomach. And so there's some physical needs that need to be addressed, but the correct way, or the way to address them that will actually have lasting change in that person's life and in the community, isn't always just to give money or give food. And actually the poverty here is so widespread and my resources are limited. I can't feed the whole community. And so there is dignity in work. And also that's the other thing. The culture here is a shame-based culture. And so if you have a family that's struggling and the gringo comes and delivers food to the family, the father then is shamed. Like, I mean, you wouldn't, it's not intended, but the appearance is that he isn't providing for his family and somebody else had to come in and do it. And it actually doesn't help the situation long term. You know, maybe if there's an immediate need, obviously you have to meet people's immediate needs, but long term you can't just do that over and over. It just doesn't produce a lasting change. And so opportunities to work are the highly, I think, is the best way to do that. So if you can come in and you can provide an opportunity to work, and someone can come and use their labor to be able to provide for their family, and then they have a sense of pride, they have dignity, they feel seen, their immediate needs are met, and they're much more open to hearing what you have to say when you invite them to church and to be part of your community, and part of a community that works together and works together with a common goal of, you know, transforming the community. And so the idea of building the church, I'm not building it. I'm more like, you know, the assistant general contractor, because the guy I work with is actually the supervising missionary here, right? But like I said, we just purchased land, but now we go to an Ecuadorian architect. We hire an Ecuadorian attorney to help us with the permit process, and then we hire all local labor. So there will be a local labor crew. And yeah, we would love to pay them more than the standard wage, but just providing them steady work at the normal wage or a little above is a huge benefit for them. And then we'll hire a local supervisor, maestro, and their rate is a little higher, but it'll be all local work. And so, yeah, we'll have local teams come and local teams help, and they provide funding, and they'll do something when they're here. But we don't just come in and do it ourselves. So that's exactly like you said. We'll try to provide opportunities for work for the community throughout everything we're here. And I can't hire a huge crew of people, but we do hire a local woman to help us with cleaning, not because we need it, but because it is something we can do that helps provide an opportunity for her one day a week. And so just looking for things like that.
So how does I think in the U.S. culture, a lot of times we confuse building with the church, or we can confuse this Sunday celebration with the church, opposed to thinking of the church as being the group of people that kind of work together, basically to bring glory to God and to care for others. While building a church in San Clemente, you guys have any ideas or thoughts in place of how you're going to build in people that are getting connected to this new entity, this new building, and help them actually see the church for a real church, opposed to saying, hey, look, I built the church. Well, no, you're not really building the church. You're being the church. You're being a part of the church while building the building.
Yeah, the building provides a nice, safe place for everybody to come together and feel comfortable and meet, but it's just the building. Right now, we're not in a building. We're in a rented space downtown. It's an open air space. It has a thatch roof that covers it, but the sides are open. And it actually used to be a dance club, but it's rented now and is our church. And so, the building isn't that important. It is the community. And we believe in the indigenous church principles. This isn't an American church. It's not just a little version of Timberline here. It's an Ecuadorian church. And so, we try to not do everything our way. When people say, hey, we want to do this, it's their church. And we try not to do it all. Our job is to, go and make disciples, baptizing and teaching. And so the children's ministry that we do is transitioning mostly to local volunteers as people get more and more involved and see a benefit in their life from being a part of the community and want to give back. And they start putting their time back into this community that they're part of, and they're taking over these programs. And actually we have a Ecuadorian pastor. His name's Rafael, and probably in the next 6 months he will be the pastor of the church, and all these other programs are run by local volunteers. And so every time, if I'm doing something every week, it's an opportunity to invite somebody else in and help disciple them and provide them an opportunity to be involved in the community and to be part of it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a neat idea. It's sometimes we forget that we're called to make disciples, and sometimes we have to get out of the way so people can follow us, following Christ in the way that we had been directed, and allow somebody else to be doing something, opposed to saying, hey, well, I've become really good at this aspect of being in this church community, so I'm going to keep on doing this. So I think as we do that, and in industry, we have the same thing. We get really good at something, and then we feel like, well, I don't really want to train my competition, or I don't want to train the people that take my job or take my position or take my security. So that's pretty neat. So how is it, we're a group of professionals that deal with water and at different levels, and but we have people that are passionate about different aspects of life than just water. So are there things that people can come alongside you and help out with? Is there anything that can be of help to what God's trying to do and what God is doing down in San Clemente, that we can be a part of it as either on an adventure or as a part of a planned activity with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first would be prayer, keep us in your prayers for the work that we're doing here in the community here, that, the local community would have work. And obviously, short-term mission trips is another opportunity. We have a couple planned this year that are coming from churches in North Carolina. And I don't know if anyone's in the Northern Colorado area. I was talking to Carrie Stewart about maybe organizing a trip in 2024 from Timberline. But if you go to the Assemblies of God World Missions website, you can find these other opportunities, not just in San Clemente, but all over. And then obviously financial support as well. We're fully supported through monthly sponsors, people who give monthly to support our ministry here. And that's important to keeping our ministry going. We depend on it.
Yeah, and San Clemente, where is that located in Ecuador?
Here, I have a map. I have a couple pictures, actually. Maybe I can share my screen.
All right.
Can everybody see the PowerPoint there?
We can see it now, yes.
All right. So there's San Clemente. We're on the coast in Ecuador, on the Pacific coast, just south of the equator. We're actually 0 degrees and like 36 minutes south of the equator. So very near the equator, right on the coast. And I hiked up the hill behind our house and I took this photo of our town from above. And this here is San Clemente. It's about 2,000 people. Here, there's a hill here, and this hill, it's a mountain, kind of extends all the way out to the sea. And then over here you have our neighboring town of San Jacinto, and they call it La Boca. It's where the Puerto Viejo River empties into the sea. And so geographically, we're kind of bound between this river and this mountain here, this little stretch of the coast, the two little towns of San Clemente and San Jacinto. This is a picture from the beach. This is pretty typical lanchas, they call them, little fishing boats. A lot of the industry here, the men are employed in fishing and construction, and a lot of the women are employed in tourism type industries, cooking, cleaning, restaurant and hotel work, because it is a beach town. This here is the outside of our church plant in our rented location. You can see it's some concrete walls and open. And inside, when you come in the doors, this is just a picture of one of our children's ministry events where we invite the kids in. We play games, give them a snack, and they get a Bible lesson. We have another picture of one of our classes, and here, this is one of our services. We do our main service on Thursday night because of the tourism industry. We're trying to provide, build community and provide opportunity and not take people away from the opportunity they have to work. And so Friday, Saturday, Sunday is their best opportunity to work and earn income. And so we do our church service on Thursday night, and that's Rafael. He's the local Ecuadorian pastor. He came from Puerto Viejo, which is a close city, and he preaches about every other week right now. So that's kind of where we're at, and some pictures of what we're doing. You can see what it looks like.
Well, great. Well, let's open up time for some questions here. We have about 5 more minutes, and then we'll kind of close off in a prayer, and then we'll let you go for the week. So,
all right, thanks.
Does anybody have any questions?
Dave, this is David Woody. I just want to say thank you for sharing. This is very uplifting.
Yeah, thank you.
one of my dreams, and I believe that dreams are just calls to worship, and sometimes they come true, sometimes they don't, but we know that God could do that and so much more in most of these situations. One of my dreams is be able to come alongside of folks that are living in an adventure in different locations, as you guys on this mission in with Assemblies of God, and have River Shared come and help out with key aspects related to water resources in small groups of people that kind of go on a adventure to do something that's fairly unique. So as we move forward with River Shared, we want to share some ideas and some opportunities of where people can possibly go and learn some about river restoration, ecosystem restoration, wetland restoration, but not so much for the purposes of what we think that the purposes generally are, like in the US, where it's for mitigation because somebody built a Walmart and filled in a stream, but it's places where these green infrastructures and these natural ways of restoring riverine and shorelines are actually produce a large economic value and something that can help reshape communities. So we have hopes that we'll have opportunities to do this with some fellow folks that have a heart to serve others in other ways than what we've been blessed with. So hopefully we'll have opportunities to help out Nate if it's God's will, and if not, then that's okay too. Keep him in your prayers. Anybody else have any thoughts before we close in a word of thanks? All right. Dear God, thank you so much for Nate and Michelle and their willingness to go. We're amazed that you allow us to be a part of what you are doing. We know that you don't need us to do anything, but the fact that you would let us be on a journey with you, and that you would allow us to follow you, is so amazing. Help us to be amazed by you as you give us opportunities, as you allow us to be a part of your work here in this world. Please be with the people of San Clemente. Please be with the men in San Clemente. Help there to be something that touches them in a way that's transformative. We pray that people will be able to see you and see that they can have a personal relationship with you. We don't know how to do that. We don't know how to help people see these things, but we know that you do, and help us to follow you closely as people decide to follow us in different directions. We're amazed by you, and help us to live in ever more amazement. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mr. Nate. And thanks a lot,
Yeah,
everybody
thank
at River
you.
Shared this week. Have a great week. And I think in next talk is on the 20th of March. We'll have Barbara Dahl come to talk, and we still haven't figured out exactly who we'll have coming in for the inspirational side of it yet, but I'm sure there'll be somebody pretty cool that will come talk to us. So have a great day, guys. And anybody who wants to stay online after, Nate, do you have a couple minutes, or you have a hard stop at 9? Well,
No,
not
I'm
at 9,
available. If anybody has any questions or wants to chat, I'll hang out.
Very good. Hey, I appreciate you giving us time today. I know it's kind of a little bit of a haphazard, but it's really appreciated, Nate.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the opportunity to be here and share a little bit. It's always good to get the word out about the work that we're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And we post the things online at River Shared too. So if you want us to, we can put a contact information with this, or if you have a contact information, you could put it on the screen right now. If you have something that's canned, then we won't forget.
I don't have anything canned, but the email is thebrownfamilyinecuador@gmail.com.
Hey, that sounds good. We'll try to put something up next Ed, and then it will be on there. Well, hey, have a great week.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Bye.